Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Elizabeth Sullivan and I'm the Oboe professor at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. Today I'll be playing the middle school selection for the district solo. I'll be playing this with a quarter note equals 84 tempo, and this is looking at the beginning to measure 40. I hope the recording of that playing will help your preparations for the district solo. Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Elizabeth Sullivan, coming to you today to talk about the middle school district solo and to give you some tips and tricks for your preparation. The first thing we're going to take a look at are the ornaments or the grace notes that are included in this piece. We're lucky that it happens the same way just about every single time. You'll see that the grace notes are in measure 2, measure 4, measure 10, measure 12, and some in the second section as well. You may be tempted to try those grace notes on your very first playthrough, but you might lose your sense of the rhythm or the pulse. So I would like for you to try practicing it with no grace notes, get the rhythm, and then add your grace notes back in. So if we practice the very beginning with no grace notes, here's what it should sound like. No grace notes at all, we can hear the steady quarter notes. Then when you feel very solid in your rhythm, add the grace notes back in and place the grace notes directly on the downbeat. And you can practice it in a burst like that. Then put it back into the measures. And it's nice we get to practice it and then put it back into every measure that it takes place. The next thing I'd like to talk about with ornaments is the trill that takes place 3 different times in this selection. We have it in measure 7, measure 15, and measure 39. It's the same trill every time, B natural to C natural. There's no special trill fingering to know. It's your fingering from B natural to C natural, and you wiggle your first finger on your right hand. You want to be sure that while you're wiggling and you're trilling, that you are still keeping track of the pulse. One of the ways that you can do that is you can do a breath accent just for the practice time. You could do that a few times with your metronome on, make sure you're lining up, and then be sure that you take those breath accents out once you feel really secure, feeling that pulse inside. The other trick with the trill is knowing when to stop wiggling. We want to be sure that we actually stop wiggling on beat 4, so we hear a resolution of the trill, and then we have plenty of time to play the and of 4 as the pickup into the next measure each time it happens. I tried to make it really obvious for you that time. Now, the last item I'd like for us to talk about is the high A that you have to slur up into in measure 6 and several other places, and figuring out your breathing. So let's talk about that high A. It's underneath a crescendo and a slur, and we may be tempted to do a real big yup, and that's not going to be very attractive to our ears. So take that crescendo to mean a little bit of crescendo and a lot of tummy support. We really don't need to slam into it because the phrase does keep going. It's not the end point of the phrase. So be gentle with the crescendo and keep the tummy nice and tight to support that high note. And finally, the breathing. As an oboe player, we may feel as though that we can play for a very long time and that we should play until we absolutely are dying and we need to take a breath, when really we need to plan better for several places to exhale the old air first before we take in some new air. This particular example doesn't have breath marks written in for us, so you should assume to breathe every chance that you have a rest that's actually written in the music, and you should plan on adding breath marks for yourself. So I have added a couple of suggestions. So in measure 8, I would suggest that you turn the dotted half note actually into just a half note. Take a full quarter rest to breathe on beat 3 before you come back in on the E natural pickup note into the new phrase. I've indicated my breath with just a little V mark. You may choose to use a different symbol to remember your breath marks, and that's okay. So you would play your B for 1, 2, then on beat 3, you're going to exhale, inhale before you come back in on your E. You're going to do something very similar down at measure 24. Measure 24 is a whole note, and I would encourage you to go ahead and turn that into a dotted half note for 3 beats, giving yourself a quarter rest. Again, plenty of time to exhale and then inhale before you come back in at measure 25. You can practice your exhale, inhale just like an 8th note rhythm. So if we're playing 1, 2, 3, you can practice, and you can actually practice that with your metronome on to be sure that you are breathing rhythmically and that you have time to do it. You don't just look at the breath mark and forget to actually play it. Let's do measure 8 together. Just on measure 8, I'll play the half note, I'll breathe in an 8th note pattern out in, and come back in on the E. And so forth. You may not feel as though that you need to breathe when you start right on that measure, but you do need to practice breathing in time. And then you can go back and put it into the context of the whole phrase. I hope those tips and tricks will help you as you prepare. Of course, right notes, right rhythms, doing your best with dynamics, all go towards a really great performance. But those are some items that may be particularly tricky for us oboe players. So I wish you the best of luck in your practice and a great performance on the district solo.